Depending on which projections you looked at the beginning of this week, the Pittsburgh Steelers had a 91 to 93% chance of making the postseason and winning the AFC North here in 2025 and getting a home playoff game. And now after the Ravens beat the Green Bay Packers, putting up 41 points against Green Bay's defense on Saturday night, and the Pittsburgh Steelers losing in embarrassing fashion in Cleveland by a final score of 13-6 here in Week 17. Right now, the feeling in Pittsburgh is that the season is over. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to see all of our post-game reactions this year. Of course, we'll have a post-game reaction for at least one more game next week when we play the dreaded Ratbirds for the division at Acrisure Stadium, probably on Sunday Night Football next week. But make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we're going to be here for the rest of this season no matter how long it takes. And how much longer we have. So let's take a look at this one, man. And plain and simply, it just comes down to a couple plays, obviously, like most games do. Really, the two plays that really define it for me, or at least the couple that come to mind. Kyle Duggar gives up a touchdown to Harold Fannin on the second drive of the game. Could have been intercepted. Shedeur Sanders throws up a floater. Could have easily been intercepted by Kyle Duggar, who ended up getting an interception later in the game, by the way. But that touchdown ends up being the difference in this ball game, and the Steelers dropped a pick six in this game. They had the ball in Cleveland territory a number of times and missed a field goal and failed to convert on a 4th and 1. And they just had a ton of opportunities. This defense held firm for the entire game after giving up 2 early scoring drives, and the offense just couldn't get it going, man. You didn't have DK Metcalf because of a suspension. MVS and Rodgers, the guys that were supposed to have chemistry together, were not on the same page all game long. Pat Freiermuth was really your only effective receiving weapon today with 63 yards. Jaylen Warren did pretty good on the ground, but they didn't run it nearly enough. And the end result is 6 points from the Pittsburgh Steelers offense that was on a roll heading into this week's game. And then the other thing, other than losing DK Metcalf, who, by the way, will not be available for next week's game against Baltimore, Darnell Washington also left this game early on with a forearm injury. And the fact that he had to leave and was declared out as fast as he was tells me that he's probably not going to play next week either. And if this is the way that the Steelers offense looked without DK Metcalf and Darnell Washington, I know the Cleveland's defense is good, and you're on the road in a kind of a AFC North kind of ball game, but I can't say I have a high level of confidence in this group that they're going to be able to light up the scoreboard with those two guys out of the lineup. We'll get to our takeaways here, starting with all the missed opportunities. We just broke down some of those missed opportunities, right? You could have had an interception, instead it turned around for a touchdown to Harold Fannin early in the game, touchdown Cleveland. All right, that ends up being the difference in the game. Missed a field goal. Chris Boswell again. That was huge. 4th and 1. We're throwing a goal ball to Scotty Miller on a 4th and 1. What is that about? All right, you have an opportunity there, first down and goal inside the 10 at the end of the game. Can't get into the end zone. A lot of missed opportunities in this game, man. You were in Cleveland territory consistently, couldn't finish the drive one time with a touchdown. If the Steelers score one touchdown in this game, they probably win the game. Unfortunately, they couldn't execute on any of their opportunities, and that's why they lost. Also, I have to give kudos to the defense. This is another week where the defense looked good. Outside of the first 2 drives, they forced 2 turnovers. They gave a number of short fields to the Steelers offense, and unfortunately this offense just couldn't capitalize on any of those opportunities. I mean, the Browns had less than 300 yards of total offense today, and they shut down Shedeur Sanders after those first 2 drives. So give credit to the defense. They weren't the ones to blame for this game. They gave them every opportunity to tie or win this football game. Unfortunately, the offense had its worst game of the season at the worst possible time. Speaking of that, the offense completely crapped the bed. We've been saying all year, what do we say before the trade deadline? We got to get somebody, because what happens if DK Metcalf goes down? Well, guess what? DK Metcalf goes down in the final 2-game stretch where we're supposed to make a play for the division, and nobody was getting open all day. And MVS was not on the same page with Rodgers. You didn't get the ball to Pat Freiermuth until the 2-minute drills at the end of each half, and he ends up getting almost 40 more yards than any other Steelers receiver. This pass game, plain and simply, guys, it relies very, very heavily on DK Metcalf and Darnell Washington to open things up for others, and with those guys out, it's just not the same. You're only 3 for 15 on third downs today, and I get it, man. Cleveland has a good defense, a top 5 defense, all that stuff, but it had to be better than this with the way the defense was giving you opportunities. And unfortunately, it just wasn't. Now, let me know down there in the comments section. Grade today's performance from the Steelers. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. Give it a D. The only reason why it's not an F is because the defense held up. But unfortunately, the offense couldn't give you anything today. Which is why I'm giving them a D for this embarrassing loss in Week 17 and a wasted opportunity. Now, before we get into the rest of today's show, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Prize Picks, and it is the holiday season, guys, and in my opinion, this is the best time of the year for watching sports, bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening all at once. And while all that action is going on, there's one place where it feels so good to be right, which is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is super simple to play. Just pick more than or less than on at least 2 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in. My favorite feature about Prize Picks is that how you play is up to you. If you want a little bit more flexibility, you can choose the flex play where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you're feeling really strong about a particular lineup and want a bigger payout, you can go for the power play. No matter how you play, though, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test and make some money. That is, if you know ball. Today, on our Prize Picks lineup today, we did the flex play, so we were still able to make some money because even though Kenneth Gainwell did not get more than 28.5 receiving yards, Jalen Warren did get more rushing yards than 53.5, and then Shedeur Sanders did get more passing yards than 180.5. So we were actually able to walk away with some money with our friends at Prize Picks because we did the flex play today. You guys can do the same right now when you download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Another takeaway, guys, is that we really miss DK Metcalf and Darnell Washington. And I've been saying all season, guys, there's 3 players that are irreplaceable in the Steelers offense, in my opinion. Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, and Darnell Washington. All right, there's nobody else on the Steelers roster that can do what those 3 players do. And if you take any one of those guys out, this completely changes the Steelers offense. When you have all 3, you can have some success. DK obviously draws a lot of attention from opposing secondaries. It opens up opportunities for other players, all that different stuff. All right, but when DK's not out there, they can just man coverage everybody across the board. Nobody's going to get open enough, and then they can play aggressively downhill to take away the yak options. And then Darnell is not only a phenomenal blocker, but he's a fantastic yak threat. You take him out of the offense, completely changes the way that this offense plays football. All right, and according to Ari Merov here, we just got some bad news. Darnell Washington broke his arm today. So he's going to be out for probably the season. And that feels like something that the Steelers are probably not going to be able to come back from, unfortunately. Darnell's such a big piece of this offense, not only in the run game, being the incredible blocker he is, but as a yak threat and as a receiving option, like he's irreplaceable in the Steelers offense. So maybe this gives out some more opportunities for Pat Freiermuth. It definitely will, actually, because he's been actually pretty awesome this year. Maybe him getting more snaps will unlock a little something in this offense. I'm just trying to be positive here, but losing Darnell Washington likely for the season is not a good sign for the Pittsburgh Steelers on offense. Then, the Steelers offense put themselves in the position to have the refs play a factor at the end of this game, but 4th and goal, you throw up that fade route up to MVS, who for some reason Rodgers threw it to, I think 3 different times in the goal-to-go situation at the end of the game, and that's the only time they're on the same page. But then Denzel Ward clearly contacts MVS before the ball gets there, not making a play on the football, not looking back to the ball, just putting his body through a receiver, no call. That just needs to be called. Now, I understand that the NFL, they're a business, and, the ratings are going to be through the roof next week for Steelers versus Ravens. But, we got to get the call right, man. And, the Steelers are to blame for the loss. They put themselves in the position for that one call to decide the ball game, essentially. But the reality is that call did end up deciding the ball game. And if you get that call, you likely go to overtime. And who knows, you might even win this game and lock up the division. But that didn't happen, and that sucks. And with everything that we've been talking about today, man, it's going to be tough next week. I opened today's show talking about the chances of the Steelers winning the division heading into this week. It was over 90% based on any projections you look at. New York Times, ESPN. It's over 90% because most people had the Steelers as pretty clear favorites against the Browns today, and then also the Ravens as pretty clear underdogs versus Green Bay. But unfortunately, the underdogs won in both matchups here. But heading into next week, man, you bet your bottom dollar, man. The Ravens are going to be favored in that football game. No DK Metcalf, no Darnell Washington. The way that the Steelers look today, they just lost to a 3-win football team with one of the worst offenses in the National Football League. All right, next week you're going up against Derrick Henry and that Ravens run game that just ran for over 300 yards against a playoff team in the Green Bay Packers. You're probably going to have Lamar Jackson come back next week. Now, the Steelers do get TJ Watt back, but, is that going to be as big of an impact as getting Lamar Jackson? I don't think so. So, even though the Steelers are home, and they've got that, and it's going to be on Sunday Night Football, you just went from having an over 90% chance of winning the division to a less than 50% chance. And it just sucks because you had the opportunity right in front of you to take this thing and to get that home playoff game and essentially get a bye week for your older players, Cam Hayward, Aaron Rodgers, TJ Watt, to give those guys another week of rest to get them ready for a potential playoff push. Instead, you get an extra playoff game, and instead of a week off and 4 games needed to win a Super Bowl, you have to win 5 straight games now to hoist a 7th Lombardi trophy, which just took the Steelers' chances from winning a Super Bowl from probably slim to maybe down to pretty much nothing. So I hate to be so negative, guys, but point the finger for me down there in the comments section. Who's the most to blame for the loss today? I think it's a lot of different things. You can blame DK Metcalf for making that stupid decision at swiping at a fan last week, getting himself suspended. You can blame Arthur Smith for not coming together with a good enough game plan in DK's absence. You can blame Aaron Rodgers for not conducting the offense in the right way. You can blame Mike Tomlin for punting on 4th down as much as he did in the 4th quarter today. There's a lot of different people you can blame. For me personally, though, I'm going to blame head coach Mike Tomlin. This was an incredible opportunity, and obviously the offensive game plan was not good enough heading into this game to win the football game. And it's his responsibility to get these guys ready, and this was their opportunity to clinch the division and get that first-round playoff game at home at Acrisure Stadium. And now the chances seem more likely than not that the Steelers are going to be on the couch come playoff weekend. And that's a sobering thought. Obviously, we'll be here cheering on the Steelers next week against the Ratbirds. And, hey, the Steelers did beat the Ravens once. Granted, DK Metcalf had an incredible game, and they barely won that football game regardless, and you're not going to have DK next week. But this is an embarrassing performance from the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's no two ways about it. And with all the latest revelations coming out here on Darnell Washington, the fact that DK won't be playing next week, the Ravens playing as well as they did on Saturday, all the momentum is pointing to Baltimore winning next week. But, hey, man, just when we think the Steelers are out of it, what usually happens, Steelers Nation? They turn it around and save their season. That's what we're hoping for next week. That's it for today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors postgame after this Week 17 loss. We're going to be getting you guys coverage on the Pittsburgh Steelers all throughout Ravens Week here. The season is officially on the line. The playoffs for the Steelers begin now. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to never miss any of our coverage. Till next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.